Awesome. So welcome in, everyone. Welcome back. I'm Gerardo here with John Wick. Some of you guys may know him in the community. This is actually our first time really getting to know each other. So we'll get to know each other here on stream with you guys. There are some of you who know one of us or both of us. So we'll have a good time here. There's lots to talk about, obviously. I've been sort of MIA for a bit, but I'm in the Telegram chats. You guys can find me there, on Twitter as well. But let's go ahead and introduce John Wick. Introduce yourself, and we'll get started with some good conversations here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I just wanted to come on and been watching your show for a while, so love the show and just wanted to touch base with a fellow Hexican that of work that I appreciate, and we can share some ideas, and hopefully this can be a fun stream. So just a little bit on my background. I've just been in the Hex community for a little bit, streaming here and there in the Telegram chats mostly. If you need to reach me or want to contact or any questions, my username on Telegram is @goldenyacht. But yeah, just wanted to talk about some of the dip, maybe some pulse, some of the recent news, some of the game theory, maybe some theories on why the market's dipping, and maybe where could we find a bottom. I'm sure you have some ideas there. But I guess
no idea.
I guess we'll just take it, just wherever the conversation takes us.
Yeah, man. Let's do it. So thank you for coming on. Appreciate you and your time here. I know you're a busy guy. We have some people in the chat I'd like to acknowledge. Obviously, Balia Brand always in here. What's going on, man? Thank you for the 369 super chat. What's up, everyone? Hex King, Modern Simplicity's here. Nice. Okay, cool. Red Squirrel, amazing mod for t.me/lookintohex. Over 1,200 people in there, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, we're going to talk about the dip. We're going to talk about the recent change in the nomics ranking, which some people are making a fuss about on Twitter. I like, some people have the right idea, because some people are like, I guess we'll just have to flip everything all over again. And that's kind of the idea I had way back in the day when the conversation was barely like bubbling up, and Clay on his Twitter was asking legitimate questions, wanting to be informed, wanting to look at things objectively, right? Allegedly. And, I was telling you guys, like, it just means we get to, do it all over again. It just means to get to the same rankings we have been in the past, top 10, top 5, top 3. It would just mean a higher price to get to those spots. So you could argue like the whole shelling point, like we've been there in those rankings. So getting there again won't be our first rodeo. So I see it as a bullish thing, right? Because it's like if supply was cut by like 6/7, I think, roughly, then 7x, like, to get back to where we were. So if we were top 3 at like 30 cents, to get back to top 3, we need to get to like $2. So I don't know. I honestly don't mind the change. What's your take on it though? I'm curious.
There's a couple ways you could look at it, right? You could say, screw nomics. Now let's never use them again. And
like
they're dead to us. They stabbed us in the back after we shilled them or not us, but Richard mostly shilled it forever, and then it's become one of the more popular crypto aggregator sites. But then part of me says a lot of the people that analyzed crypto markets through market cap solely and mostly, to them Hex not only did a discount in price, but also the market cap dropped. So to them, maybe Hex is now a value play, or it's something that has more potential than some of the other large caps like Ethereum, Bitcoin, Solana, etc., Cardano. So there, you could look at it that way. Or you could look at it as a bullish thing, that it could be more attractive to new investors. But as Hexicans, we kind of know that market cap in general is more of a vanity cap, is a vanity metric. But at the same time, it's funny that people cry about the market cap being reduced, even though it doesn't mean anything and it's vanity. We still cry when it doesn't go our way. So I guess that's just human nature.
I like your take on that, though, because like you said, a select few amount of people know that market cap isn't the best metric to measure the worthiness or the potential of a crypto, but the majority of the space still does. And until the overall space matures to the point where they recognize that, maybe it is like what you said, because someone actually told me this a while back, someone that I was onboarding, and they said, because we were talking about the whole CMC fiasco, and he had some like theories, but one of them was, what if a lower market cap incentivizes the common person to want to get in, like you said. And well, now what is it? Let's actually pull up nomics. We're number 18, and so people see the potential more so similar to a SHIB or whatever, like to actually move up in the rankings, like similar to the point I brought up earlier, but just kind of another play on it. We're 100x away from flipping Bitcoin now, just to put that in perspective.
Well, what I'm curious about to see is with the Pulse launch, will there also be like a market cap site too? Will that be one of the things that's included, or maybe not? Maybe it's a community built thing, but it doesn't seem to me that's that hard to build something that just counts market cap and it just uses math mostly. But yeah, we've been seeing the dip. And that's been affecting some of the sentiment, maybe. I've been seeing some people have been kind of jumping on top of the hexagons now that the price has gone down a little bit. People are kind of rubbing it in our faces as far as like, how great it is, or if it's going to flip Ethereum, or if it's just going to be, if it isn't even legitimate, right? Because it seems like we still have a level of echo chamberness to the HEX community, even though, us inside it know how great it is. And the metrics are all very bullish. From what I'm seeing on chain, it's mostly small to mid-sized bag selling. And I want to remind people that the liquidity relative to the size of the market in HEX is very, very small still. It's tiny. So, all of us on paper can lose tens, 20s, hundreds of millions of dollars in a given day, right? If the price wicks down 3%, 2%, 2 cents, 3 cents. And that can happen so easily, as you can see. Someone selling 1 million or 2 million HEX can move the price about a cent or so, a penny. So it's just like, you have to know that this is crypto. It's the most volatile asset in the world. But with this type of liquidity settings and with the staking mechanism, the fundamentals have never been better. The on-chain data has never been better. The average stake length in HEX is steadily trending up. It's 5.8. It's like almost 5.8 years now.
Nice.
And the T-share ratio, the T-share rate is steadily climbing. It's almost 19,300 HEX now, right? So we are starting to see a little bit of a more parabolic move there. So it's harder to acquire T-shares, and like we discussed a little bit off air, we're almost at 11 million T-shares total now. So that has been dropping on this dip, which means that less people have been staking, or people have been staking less long lately. So maybe that's just a sign of the market sentiment, and some of the investor psychology has kind of turned down, and people are losing a little bit faith in the system, even though nothing to me has changed, right? And when we're looking at, when I look at investments of any kind, but crypto especially, it's like you like, if there's a dip in price, I like to think to myself, what has changed in this investment? What has materially changed? And in HEX, what has changed?
Fundamentally speaking, the protocol is still banging out HEX per day, right? Like,
and the penalty system is still working. The T-share share system is still working. You're still going to get a copy of all your coins. You're still have the fundamentals included that are all the same, right? You're having an OA, and that just sits liquid and boosts APY. Like, all these things are still here, and the community is still, if you go to the hexdailystats.com, there's still a net positive onboarding to ratio of new users, new stakers.
I noticed that it's more users coming in per day, but obviously with the dip, more money exiting per day. So it almost seems like a value transfer from like whales and dolphins to, like, if you look at the turtles and the crabs, they've been going up. So it is a value transfer there. I just noticed what you pointed out on the share rate. I actually hadn't noticed. It is starting to curve up. If you see the concavity on the share rate. So wow, that's interesting. I didn't see that or expect that.
Yeah, and I wonder why, and that's why I was saying, I was thinking that this probably is coinciding with a lot of people doing 1-year stakes prior to big payday last year. Because if you stake 365 days or 360, like it's the number that most people staked, I believe, right? Just because it's just a whole number, it makes sense. People are like, all right, I don't really believe in this, but I'll stake it for 1 year and see what happens.
Right.
And a lot of those people, those are, because right now big payday was November 19th of last year. Now it's November 9th. So we're almost at the 1 year mark of big payday. I think a lot of people time their stakes around this time. The share rate is you know, concave up, and we're seeing a lot of those people use that big payday coins for free and selling them on market, you know, and not doing limits. They're just kind of dumping it. And then there was been a little bit of FUD, I think, in the community that like Conrad Zen is selling, or some other like influencers selling that people are just trying to spread so that they can get a better entry. I don't see any validity to any of those claims. So it's just like, to me, the bullish case for HEX has not changed. Just the price has changed a little bit, and some people have gotten shaken out. Some sharks have sold, some dolphins have sold, some squids have sold, but for the most part, we're still onboarding people every single day.
Right.
And Richard is still alive, I think. And Pulse is still being developed, and they're on the second version of the testnet soon. So it's just like, to me, everything's good in Hexaco. I don't see any cataclysmic events coming to rock us, you know, that are foreseen at least.
It's a great point. Like the fundamentals haven't changed. The only thing that's changed is the size of the liquidity pools, right? It's just HEX doing the crypto dance, which every crypto does. Every crypto dips 80+%, and we haven't yet. Actually, this is more. Last I checked, it was like a 74.5% dip, which is actually bigger than last year's March 2020 capitulation. At that point, from local high to local bottom, it was 72.5, and we're looking at 74.5 right now. So, just saying, this is our longest dip to date and third deepest dip to date. Yeah, go ahead.
I think on the technical, very basic technical level, RSI is like the most oversold it's been since big payday, or it might have even surpassed that now. So if you look at it from a historical perspective, this is like the 9th or 10th significant dip in HEX.
12th, but yeah.
12th, okay. If you factor whatever, depending on what numbers you use, like 60% or more, whatever.
True. I use 50.
But from big payday, the low that it wicked was 0.002.
Yes.
And then a month or so ago, it touched 50 cents. So that's over 100x in price, you know, in less than a year.
Yeah.
So these are the opportunities that most people, the new people, can scoop up and stake and then build a position in. And then you have to give some people the opportunity to sell the lows. That's kind of how these flush outs work. Like right now, some people are antsy. They're waiting for their stakes to expire, and they're like, maybe they flip from, you know, staking it longer to maybe selling some, because they're not sure if this is going to sustain or if we're going to fall back down to levels, you know, below the sacrifice phase. But we are still above the sacrifice phase prices. So we tested the previous high breakout. We're testing it now, and then we had a nice bounce off it today. And I think, you know, we could obviously continue to chop until we get some Pulse news. But to me, this is just an accumulation zone, and then it's the you know, all systems go moving forward in the next few months. So have you looked at some of the expiring stakes too? Do you want to pull that chart up?
I'll pull that up. Yeah, I just wanted to give a visual to this. What you're talking about, like, that's a very clean retest. If you look at it on a line chart, just get rid of the wicks, the noise. Like, we literally touched right on this 16.9 cent level. Just wanted to point that out. But obviously, if you keep zooming out, you can look at, all right, well, weekly is at 15 cents, but we actually wicked down there. I meant to say a weekly candle is on 15 cents, and we wicked down there with this one. So, I mean, yeah. That's a bullish case right there. Let me pull up what you asked for, the Hex.Vision expiring stakes.
Yeah, and then do like a chart. Custom range, maybe the next, maybe like the next 6 months.
Let's see, there's always going to be that wall of people staking month to month with big bags. Yeah, that's always there. Just for the people.
So a lot of the newbies, just real quick, a lot of the newbies in like the Hex and Pulse chats, like they go to HEX.Vision, they don't really understand how to read that or to use the indicators and the custom ranges. Because if you don't do the custom date ranges, it looks like there's just constantly so much hex expiring, and that could be potential sell pressure. But like you said, 80% of that probably is people rolling stakes, and some of them sell interest, but the vast majority of them just keep compounding those gains. So without that, sorry, I lost my thought.
No, totally. Like what we were talking about, how if you have, I don't know, 10, let's be conservative. Let's say you have 1 million USD, however much hex that is, you stake that, 30 days will probably generate like 10,000 USD, assuming stable price. So you have these big whales who got in early, they have a ton of hex, stake month to month, just sell the interest, never sell principal. And so you'll always have, or generally the idea is we expect to have these really tall bars here on this histogram chart out like 30 days, 60 days or whatnot. But this is the next 60 or the next 6 months, I believe is what you asked for.
Yeah.
Starting today. Right.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So I always look at this chart because this gives you an idea of you can, if you really want to go into the chain analysis and look at granular, you can look at which addresses are these ones that are like the largest stakes within these huge days. But for the most part, a lot of those are monthly restakers or 6 months or doing short monthly stakes. But as you can see, the stakes expiring really falls off around New Year's. New Year's, it really kind of tails off. Yeah. And of course, some of those people will be restaking, but it seems like if we get past that stage, that could be, the end of this little bull flag, the pennant, I think, maybe around New Year's. And then my speculation was, and if you were in Hex for last year, on New Year's Eve, we pumped to almost 2 cents. It was
I remember that. That was great.
Yeah. It seemed like an almost inorganic pump to me.
Yeah.
And that's just my speculation. That's there's no chain analysis there. But to me, it seemed like kind of inorganic because it was like, okay, how do we boost the year-to-date returns for Hex before the end of the year? It's like what hedge funds do, right? They know how to manipulate their returns in a given month or at the end of the month to kind of boost the year-to-date or the quarter-to-date returns to look better for the investors or to generate more fees. Because if you have a higher rate of ROI or rate of return, then and most of your revenue is from the fees, then you can justify that. But anyways,
interesting.
You essentially, so I think that could be the case where we could see maybe some sort of pump going into New Year's Eve and the New Year. But then that may coincide with some of these expiring stakes. But I think that people should just keep an eye on the 6 months expiring stake chart, see how many of these are re-rolling stakes. But for the most part, once we get past this, I don't think there's that much stake expiring until March. There's the Godwell has like 1 billion hex coming out. But other than that, I think it's not too bad. Yeah. I think we've gotten past a lot of the staking pressure, sell pressure from a lot of the short-term big payday stakers is my thesis.
No, for sure. It's interesting what you point out because you're probably aware of the quarterly ROI chart on my website, which every single quarter to date has been a positive quarter if you measure from the beginning to the end. Current quarter is actually underwater, but every quarter prior was that. So it's interesting how you say like people like these hedge funds pump price near the end of the year and how that hex pump looked artificial to you. I thought the same thing. We're referring to, for the people who don't know, referring to this last New Year's Eve pump, which was here. It almost seemed like just a full send, and a lot of it was wicked down on certain like here on
some
V1,
guy like sold like 2 million or something on that wick up. And like if you go from 2 cents to 0.002, the big payday wick,
this right here,
that's 100. Oh no, wait, that's 10. Yeah, that's 10x. That's 10x in a month and a half. So it's like we've seen a little bit of capitulation wicks on this dump, but not really. I mean, RSI wise, it's been oversold as much, but it's we're seeing levels like it's very unheard of. And to go back to the quarterly comment, I think this is the worst quarter so far in Hex's history.
Pretty sure.
These dips don't last long. Looking at the the historical since V1 chart, it's like these dips don't last very long. So
I'll pull up a chart to show that in a bit.
Yeah, maybe the V1 chart or your quarterly chart.
Yeah, so quarterly chart. I actually look at that.
You need this to me like this is a buy. You know, that to me looks like a buy signal. You know, just based on looking at just trends relative to where it usually ends up. Like if you look at like an average of where it ends up, or I think you might have a number, right? An average.
4.3x, yeah.
Look how much lower it is versus the average. Look how much upside potential there is relative to what it's done, right? And every 10x. Dip we've seen has rebounded in the same quarter, right? Even if it's the negative, it seems to rebound in the positive direction over the second half.
That's a great point. Like these yellow and blue ones are worst performing quarters to date. We're underwater for a long part, especially this blue one was underwater pretty much all quarter up until the end. And the yellow one was just like kind of oscillating around the break-even level and ended up at like 30% return that quarter. But like you said, yeah, I'm gonna have to cover this one a little more. It's interesting.
Just something to keep an eye on. For you know, it's like because if you're looking for indicators to buy, right? If you're looking for good entries, that might be one thing that you look at. It might be, you know, of the whole total picture of what you're trying to get good entries, because everyone wants a great entry, especially for people that feel like they missed the boat or just found out about HEX. You know, you got to be smart about how you acquire it, right? Because there's no cheap HEX anywhere. Yeah.
Fact, yeah. More crypto. Thank you for the $2 super chat. We'll touch on Pulse. He says Pulse price, which is not a price, it's a sacrifice rate, is at about 2.3 cents on the dollar right now, which is there's a lot of controversy around whether that's a. We'll touch on it. But we'll touch on Alan, his super chat. Thank you for that, bro. Gerardo, great hair. Thank you. And Mr. Wick, where's your dog? He's asking. Love the second chance to obtain more HEX and looking forward to Pulse, of course. Nice. Thank you for the super chat. Hello, everyone in the chat. We have like 300 people. Smash the like. And yeah, let's keep on chatting with.
I did want to point out something because someone mentioned Pulse. So a lot of people in the Telegrams keep saying that there's going to be a snapshot for Pulse. You know, that there's going to be like a specific day snapshot. That's not how the Pulse fork is going to work. Essentially, you know, Pulse is just going to take the Ethereum code and then just and on that specific block, whenever it is, it's just going to copy it and then be its own chain. So there's no snapshot and then a delay and then a fork. It's just fork happens and then it's its own new chain and then it grows from there.
That was my impression. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people keep saying though, there's a snapshot or I need to get HEX by a certain snapshot. But if that was the case, then that would just be sell pressure for HEX. And I don't think Richard would design something to make sell pressure, because then you would just buy it before the snapshot, sell it, and then play some other speculative game with that for your money, knowing that you're going to get HEX, you know, a month later. That doesn't make any sense.
I hadn't thought of it that way.
Yeah, it's just going to be like the state. At the current state, it's going to be forked. So whatever you have at that current state, fork you have over here. That's how I feel. At least.
That makes sense. I personally was not aware of how. Like when you fork Ethereum, does it by default carry the entire state at the moment of fork? And if so, why are these other Ethereum forks, why did they fork empty? Did they actually intentionally have to put in work to clear and empty it out? Or is empty the default setting and you have to inject a system state? Like I'm so unversed in that. So I understand the confusion.
Yeah, it's totally confusing. I believe it. Like I think most of the projects that launched empty just did so because they wanted to keep fees low and, you know, transactions fast still. I think they were like expecting all this adoption and then it didn't come because it's hard to get adoption in crypto. And then they just have empty blockchains. So I think, it's definitely more time intensive and more work to do all the system state stuff because Richard has to do all that. You know, he has so many things to do ahead of time, you know, to launch it, not just like the block explorer, you know, Pulse swap and Uniswap forks. Like he needs so much to do. But the other ones are just kind of like empty blockchains. Here you go. Like here's the allocation and then have fun with this.
Right. And then the adoption came to some, but this is trying to bootstrap that and kind of play catch up, because a lot of these Ethereum clones, like I forgot how long BSC has existed, but that's already an existing successful Ethereum clone. So like it is kind of a game of catch up with Pulse, if we're being real. Like the L1 race kind of already started. And I want to appreciate Marco in the chat for the $20 super chat. It says 2 legends, Mr. G and my guy John Wick. Thank you, Marco.
Marco in Vegas.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's fun. Good guy.
Cool stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, I need to go to one of those in-person events. I still haven't yet, but the next one's in Vegas next year, I believe. So I
Yeah.
might. It's a soft maybe. I won't say yes, but maybe.
For sure.
But yeah.
What are your thoughts on centralized exchanges? There's been a lot of people, Dan mostly, talking about we need centralized exchanges. What are your thoughts on that, and if HEX needs it or not, or would that be good for adoption, price, etc.? Do you have any ideas or thoughts on it?
Yeah. I mean, I'd love to see a centralized exchange list. I mean, the big names, the obvious ones, like a Coinbase listing because I mean, they exist and they're part of the infrastructure now. Not saying we're not going towards a world where we won't need them, but I don't see that world yet, right? I don't see kind of a blueprint for a world without centralized exchanges yet. And until I see that, I think it would help, just because you hear of people or exchanges holding funds for a time. So it doesn't allow people to immediately get exposed to HEX price if they wanted to. I think there are some services that attempt to route around that. I've heard of people having success with Dharma.io. Let me name some other ones. Changely, I think Transact, Wire are some other ones, but something like a Coinbase listing HEX, or even Pulse for that matter, I think it would be great because it removes the need for an Ethereum bridge right out the gate. Like, that can wait, because you can peg to value and onboard off ramp via fiat versus something like a bridge. And yeah, it just gives more eyes. Like, I don't know how much traffic your Coinbase's Geminis get per month, but I mean, more traffic just helps. Like, I'm always going to be under that thesis that more traffic is just better if you have a good product. Obviously, if you have a bad product, then it'll just highlight how bad it is. But I think it'd be good. Just a long-winded way of saying good.
Nice.
Yeah.
I mean, we definitely need something for onboarding for Pulse. It's just it's too much. It's the cost of onboarding. For the most part, if I have new people that come in, I'll just cover their fees, their gas fees, and everything.
Same,
because I don't want to have to explain
yeah.
you put in 1,000, but now it's only 750 because of gas fees, and it just looks bad. But like, for the most part, we need a fiat on ramp for Pulse PHEX especially, because I think there's a lot of just pent up demand, just based on the numbers from Staker app, the people that have Staker app that want to get a smart wallet. That was a big issue for a year ago, like the last year or so. And now with gas consistently being in the hundreds, almost 200s today,
It's ridiculous, dude.
Obviously, yeah, like some of the DeFi stuff is not going to be usable for most people. And if somehow, some way, I know some people working on it, not just Richard, in some countries like Switzerland and some of the other more crypto-friendly countries, but there's some way to do that coincided with the launch of Pulse. I think it could just be amazing for, PHEX, Pulse, the whole ecosystem, just like kind of how, because Matic has onboarding, I think, directly with fiat through some services.
They do?
Yeah, like Polygon. Polygon has some sort of, fiat on ramps. So it's like, I want to see sexes, but it's just like, where are they going to get the liquidity to list? Like, they're not going to just market buy and then list something, right? Like, that's just like a negative. That's, from a business standpoint, why would they do that?
You're right.
There would have to be some sort of agreement, some sort of liquidity stuff. Like, I don't know, some sort of.
I mean, how do they usually do it? I'm not completely familiar, but I would assume they
I'm not 100% sure.
have communications with founding teams, maybe do something over OTC. Like, no, not too familiar, but
yeah, I don't know either, like, exactly, but I know a lot of shady stuff does happen with centralized exchanges. At least that's how it was in 2017. Just because, like, back then, if a coin listed on any exchange, like, the coin would pump like 50%, like, get guaranteed, instantly. If it got listed on like KuCoin or Binance or
totally
Bittrex or all those other exchanges that everyone used back then, Poloniex.
Right, I remember that.
So it's like, to me, I hope that there's like it gets on KuCoin or one of some of those second tier non KYC exchanges, but it's just like I don't think it's necessary at this point yet. I just want to see fiat on ramps,
Yeah.
coming ASAP, because I just think there's so much pent up buy pressure demand, but no one wants to shoot themselves in the foot to get HEX and pay 20% clip or whatever it is, 10%
Right.
clip of their total investment.
Yeah.
Although I would still do it if it was me, just because I believe, but it's just
Mhm.
hard. It's a hard sell. Just
It is.
yeah.
It incentivizes larger buys, I guess, where, if you're gonna, you'd probably rather save up and make a big purchase so that you don't have to do multiple Ethereum transactions, which are just off the chart. Someone asked, what are the fees to end stake? It depends on the length of your stake. I know longer stakes are
Yeah.
getting kind of wrecked right now. For reference, I saw a stake like the ones you're mentioning, the 1 year stakes from around big payday era. I think those are like $1,000 to end stake right now, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, at current gas, yeah.
Yeah.
I've one that, yeah, I think was expired. It was like maybe 500 days or something, and it was like $700,
Yeah.
$800 or so.
Yeah.
A quote. Yeah, so
Yeah.
it is tough, but if you do have long stakes though, then those they're all in the money. You have huge unrealized capital gains on those. So even
That is
though you
true.
might be paying $700,000 from that stake, usually if you had decent sized stakes, those gonna be worth $70,000, $50,000, $100,000
It's true.
at current prices. So it
That is
does
true.
definitely suck. You always have to keep loading up ETH. However, if you
Yeah.
staked long, you probably did yourself a favor in the long run because you captured that upside and you didn't have to sell and you got big payday. So not all is lost. Try to focus on the positive.
Even these,
Yeah.
even if you had bought on the peak prior to big payday and sold on the literal low, that is still 1,000% gains, which is like 10x before staking. And this assumes staking, right? A lot of end stakes. So like you're looking at like a 15x. However, if you had maybe played it a little better, maybe, I don't know, some people are up 100x, like you pointed out. We dipped down here to a fifth of a penny, rallied to half a dollar. So,
and like for most people, they not playing the price of HEX and just buying it to stake long term. It's like
right.
the price really doesn't matter until your stake expires, because
True.
to you it's not relevant. It's noise. Like if I have a 10-year stake, the price of it today literally doesn't matter, because even if I were to try to end stake it, I would get nothing. So I can't sell it. I have to hold it. And if I have to hold it, the price doesn't matter until right. And if I have a ladder, then I might have a stake expiring in a few months. And then I'll have to reassess what the price is at that time. But it's just like, focus on the big picture. If you haven't, the investment thesis of this asset has not changed. If you're staked for long, focus on that. Time in the market is more important than timing the market. But for the most part, I just try to buy dips and I stake it according to my ladder, according to when I need the money or may need the money. And that's pretty much it. Just do CD ladders. And you let the HEX work for you, let time and the money work for you while you just sit there and do nothing. It's a great system.
I love the way you worded that. How the investment thesis for HEX has not changed. The fundamentals are still there.
Yeah,
It's
the
just doing
value
the crypto
proposition.
dance.
What is the value proposition of HEX? High yield.
Right.
Cryptocurrency potential gains inside a high yield product. DeFi, like owning your own assets, getting yield on coins without having to give up your private keys. These are all the same. Nothing has changed. Absolutely nothing. So it's literally just a matter of people. Yes, sure, they can get out now, and sharks and dolphins can get out as much as they want, and they can whip the price down as much as they want. That doesn't change the contract. It doesn't change the community and all the things that are being developed right now and Pulse being developed. That doesn't change any of that, right? It's just investor psychology and market sentiment has really flipped to very bearish for some people, not for everyone, right? So some people have still maintained their focus and what they believe in, and they believe in the long-term focus. But it's just sometimes we need a reminder that everything's going to be okay. Stop crying. Just do some things if the volatility affects you emotionally and very, not only financially but emotionally and spiritually, then go outside, work out, do a hard run, get a hard lift in, go do some things with your family, kids, friends, and just
100%, man.
try to appreciate other things in life that are not just about money and staring at a screen.
Dude,
Because
yeah.
you got into HEX in the first place, so you didn't have to stare at a screen for the most part.
There you go. I love it.
So it's just like, come on, man, you got to
quote,
focus on the big picture.
Yeah,
focus on the big
dude.
picture, and
I'll quote Elon Musk, we spend too much time of our lives focused on imaginary numbers in a database. And then to your point, those imaginary numbers in a database aren't even able to be realized if you're staked. So why trip about them? Like 2 layers, 2 reasons here why you probably shouldn't be staring at charts all day. And then you see people on Twitter, Fudsters, showing the linear chart and saying, oh no, HEX is crashing. Which, I mean, yeah, this is a pretty significant dip. Biggest one we've had all year, but log chart gives a completely different story. So just be careful who you listen to, trying to FUD you out of your position and trying to get a lower entry. Zoom out. Hit log.
Zoom out. Yeah, like go to the V1 USDC chart and zoom out if you ever have issues looking, and maybe you didn't get in that early, but if you look, going back to your beautiful charts, look at this chart relative to the Bitcoin launch. Look at it to the ETH launch. We were talking earlier. I was in ETH early. I got in earlier, in the low double-digit dollars. Nice. And that had potential. I didn't think it had this much potential this fast, but HEX is already outpacing that potential. Even despite this 70% dip, we're still beating Ethereum's launch from an ROI-X perspective.
That's true.
And Bitcoin. So it's just like the future's bright and the interest is still paying every single day. So it's not only doing better price performance wise, but it also has a better value proposition, which is staking and high yield and interest. And then which is not included in the chart is the big payday. It's not included in the chart. And also included in the chart is the pulse copy is not included in the chart. Those two things are not included in the chart, even though they have major value to people that are in this community and that hold, because you're going to get a free money printer on the other side, So it's like, and you might get even a third copy once ETH does the hard fork 2.0 to proof of stake. So you might even get a third copy of your HEX that way. So it's just like, keep the big picture, and like Wales always says, like, know what you have and know the value of what you own. And if you own something, if you own the best asset that you think in this space, why would you sell the majority of your holdings to try to chase, short-term gains? Maybe it's just boredom. I think people do get bored.
I think so. And I think times like these allow people to really reflect and revisit their own investment thesis and see like what actually was it. Did I even have one? And like start looking hopefully for voices of clarity like yours, like even introducing them to the idea and the concept, because that might be a new concept to some people. as crazy as that sounds, like having a reason why you invest in something and like having it laid out and kind of like what do you call it, something that will invalidate your thesis, like an event or whatever that will say, okay,
or like a change of like in stock market,
a stop loss.
It's like if a CEO is like outed, right? Like that could be like a certain event that changes your investment thesis because you were betting on the vision of that man or woman or team, and then something changed. They were shady, or they had some sort of allegations or whatever happened. Like that is a material change, and that could alter your investment thesis.
There you go.
And
something
if you
fundamentally
view HEX,
changing.
Yeah, if you view HEX as a venture bet or a venture investment or something that's highly speculative but has 1000x, 100x potential, then you want to bet on people that have done it before, have skills, and have some, have history of building something that's valuable, which Richard has. So to me, it's like you're betting on horses in crypto, and you want to bet on, yes, you want to have a good jockey, but you also want to have a good horse. And if you make, like when you're at the horse races, you try to create a thesis of why this horse or why this jockey or combination of the two is going to win. And the same with crypto. You try to bet on those horses and the jockeys that you think are going to be great. Some people think it's Charles Hoskinson. Some people think it's Richard. Some people think it's Satoshi or Vitalik.
Yeah.
But whoever you your heroes are, it's like some people will put all their faith in that, some people won't. But like, for us and this project and this product, the founder is still here, the vision is still there. I think he's only gotten more optimistic, more ambitious as far as what he wants to accomplish.
I think so,
in
yeah.
the time that he's launched it, so
yeah, I mean, we were prepared for a unlivable Ethereum, and this is what that looks like, right? Like, I remember Richard saying back in the day that if Ethereum starts to suck, that he would just fork it, and we would live on our own chain. Which, if you look at it, like, if Ethereum didn't suck this bad, we maybe would have never gotten Pulsechain. So
exactly, yeah, that's why I try to tell people too is yes, the ETH gas fees suck, they're awful, and they used to be better, right? So it was manageable, but now it's just gotten awful. But like, out of that awfulness and hurting your wallet is you're getting this huge copy of your coins on a new chain, which is going to continue to pay you interest too. So you're going to get much more value, I think, from Pulsechain, PulseHex, and just being able to invest in Pulsechain too, than the gas fees you would going to pay on the Ethereum side. I would argue. So it's just try to keep a positive perspective on that, because like you said, we wouldn't even have it. We wouldn't even be having the Pulsechain conversation if ETH gas fees were still low in the 1 to 2 away, like it was when it launched.
It's the good days, man.
Yeah.
Here, let me
like 1 cent to stake.
Dude, I remember that. I would like sit down and be like, all right, I'm about to stake. Like, I'm gonna make my ladder, and I would just throw out stakes like they were nothing, just a penny, 2 pennies. 10 pennies was a lot at the time, and it's like good days. But I wanna touch on this chart, which something about this just specifically is, I want to point it out. Like, when Ethereum reached that $400 peak for the first time on its ROI from launch chart, it is reaching where HEX is now after a 70% dip, which is specifically what, like 200x, 2 to 300x ish from launch. So just to put that in perspective, like, I don't know how that makes you feel, but it's like, after a 70% dip, we are at what would have been a local peak for Ethereum at the time. So it's just like, I don't know how else to say it.
Without interest,
without interest right,
too.
Right.
Yeah. So you could add like 30, 40% to that.
There you go.
Even.
Yeah.
Or more.
Yeah. So I don't know.
So that's why I direct like a lot of the new people and onboards to your site, because they can see not only the potential of HEX if it is to fulfill its mission and to become the greatest store of value on Earth and crypto, at least in crypto, then it can continue to do well, because it's exactly what Bitcoin and Ethereum did, but it has better game theory. So yes, of course, there's no guarantees. There's no one's saying for sure that it's going to do what Ethereum or Bitcoin did, but based on the fundamentals, and it's doing better, and we've already gone through a lot of the sell pressure. And prices that have gone way higher than everyone ever even imagined. So people are selling for life-changing gains. And despite even all of that and their HEX flexes and selling for Lambos and all that, we're still outpacing, Ethereum did and it's launched, right? And
it's nuts.
Vitalik has been called a genius by those people, in the Ethereum communities and the global communities for the most part, other than Bitcoin maximalists. So it's like, well, what is Richard then? If he creates this and then Pulse does something similar to this too, then what is Richard? If Vitalik is a genius, but both of his coins, did outperform the launches of Ethereum.
Yeah,
and don't hurt the environment as much, right? So it's like, there's a lot of cool cases for Richard, and obviously he doesn't get the respect he deserves, but that's just kind of how it is, and he rubs people the wrong way. But for us, as investors, does it really matter what Richard wears or what he buys?
No, not at all.
Yeah, right. Like, if he swears or not, like, does that change the investment thesis of HEX? No.
Right. It's more of a kind of like the social layer of things, and some people just get turned off by the cursing. I think he stopped recently, which is kind of cool. But I do want to give credit where credit is due and say, creating a general purpose blockchain for the first time, aka Ethereum, is quite the feat. So yes, Vitalik's a genius. Yes, Richard is a genius. In my opinion, they're both geniuses. Just way different people. Like Vitalik comes from a way different background. I believe he started in crypto just by writing like Bitcoin articles, whereas Richard came into crypto not a teenage journalist, but rather a already established successful businessman. So it's just completely different ethos, approaches, design, decisions, and I mean,
I
unless
like
you're
that.
no, it's amazing.
I mean, I like that Richard was like because when I was like in the chats before Hex was even launched, there's a lot of game theory talk and just talking about Richard and the same fuddy questions that get asked today, right? Like, what is Richard sketchy? Is he going to rug pull all that? It's like,
so silly.
it's very silly. But it's like betting, like Richard being an entrepreneur and building businesses and selling businesses and having employees, like to me that was very attractive from an investing in Hex standpoint, because
Right.
I run a business and I know how hard it is, and I know how the challenges you have to go through and the growth you have to go through just as a businessman, man or woman, because you have to deal with challenges nonstop and so much unpredictable uncertainty in business. There's and dealing with customers and all that. It's just it's a lot. It's a huge learning experience. So it's like knowing that he's gone through all those experiences and failures and fucking up and and building companies that have millions of dollars of revenue, like that's not an easy thing to do. And I think that having that track record was very attractive to me for looking at it from an investment standpoint, because you don't see that much in crypto. You don't see many previous founders or previous entrepreneurs that have built anything meaningful or valuable go into the space. It's usually like, people with a good idea that have some developer experience, and then they try to maximize their, personal profit on a coin they launch. That's what I see mostly.
Mostly,
this was
yeah.
something different, something unique.
Yeah, that success in business, the way he had it, and what you're speaking of is like, it speaks to understanding a whole ton of concepts, to understanding systems, marketing, human psychology, just like, and that's just to name a few. And so it's like you would trust. Well, I mean, trust, right? That's a tricky word in crypto. It's a tricky word in crypto.
Yeah.
But you would at least, I don't want to use the word expect either. Oh man, a lot of tricky words in crypto. You'd be bullish on someone like that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And
be careful with your words.
And just like the new project versus like something that's been around that everyone already knows. Richard always says it. It's like everyone already knows what Bitcoin is. Like the average person down on the street you see when they ask them about crypto, they immediately think of Bitcoin. So it's like everyone already knows about Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Most smart people, VC, Silicon Valley, all know about Ethereum. They've all been investing for a long, long time, way earlier than everyone thinks. But Hex is still unknown. It's still relatively unheard of. Still thought of as a scam, Ponzi, untrustworthy, sketchy. So it's just like there's huge opportunity from that perspective, just from a social acceptance perspective.
I love what someone just said right now.
If it'll be better or not, over time. But
I mean, we hope, right? We hope the narrative will get better. The Bitcoin narrative got better with time. The ETH narrative got better with time. The Hex narrative is getting better with time. It's not completely out the woods in terms of being hated on. But I like this comment. Hex is now a low cap gem. True.
Yep.
I mean, no, I like it. I like that framing it that way. Probably want to frame it that way to people who take that as all those people who look for those low cap gems and use that terminology, even though we know like what actually pumps or what actually allows price to be pumpable to the levels people want, 100x, 1000x, is liquidity. So in reality, they're looking for low liquidity gems, but the terminology that's used is low cap, which is fine. Generally, I want to say generally they're tied, but in certain situations they're not.
Yep. It's definitely got the liquidity of a low cap gem,
Right,
and that's what matters. That's what matters. But it's just, if you look at it, it's like, what the hell? This coin is like worth $100 billion, and it's only it's like a million, less than $1 million moves at a few like pennies. It's like, damn. But it's like, to me, that's only upside. Like, you don't need to sell that much for the most part, right? Like, not everyone's going to be buying $1 million houses from Hex. Like, in the same day or the same year even, right? It's going to be spread out over time. So it's like, yeah. And most people, like when I went to Vegas and talked to a lot of the Hexicans there, like no one wanted to sell their Hex. Like, you know, it's like painful. It's like,
Yeah.
I gotta sell because I gotta do this, or the wife needs this, or the kids need something. But I don't really want to sell. Like, it's just, it pains me. And a lot of people I talked to there were like, yeah, I have the same feelings, because I know what it's just such a valuable asset. And it just continues to go up. And it's like staking is just so lucrative now. At under 10% total staked, it's so lucrative. It's just like, it's tough to argue with the APY just from even if the prices move.
No, that's a great point. It's like you pointed out, it's crypto volatility within a high yield product. High yield product being that value proposition of like you said, even if price takes a 40% dip from your start to your end with a 40% APY, you pretty much broke even. So you can withstand dips more so than a crypto that doesn't give high yield. I want to thank Ryan Lopez, creator of HEXDailyStats.com, him and his team. He gave a super chat, $10. Thank you, bro. Nice stream, boys. Very educated talk. Yeah, I like to have high quality guests on here for sure. And yeah, thank you for that, bro. Go check out HEXDailyStats.com. I actually source a bunch of data from there for my charts on LookIntoHex.com. So go check them out.
Yeah, it's great. I look at it every day. Like at the close, I look at, because I like to see like how many holders or stakers we've onboarded that day, just to see, like if we're seeing more positive momentum. And we have been. Like, it's literally been positive for the last like 20 or 30 cells. You know, it's just it's crazy.
Nice.
Yeah, it was 30. The last negative day was day 385. Wow. And we're at day 700 something.
You're talking about which metric?
The change in current stakers. So
got you.
Net stakers going up or down, and after the day's rollover. It hasn't been negative since day 385. So
new Hex stakers. Let's
basically
see.
new stakers, new addresses being developed.
Oh my goodness, yeah, you're right.
It's pretty crazy. Like,
definitely took a little dip, but it's still positive.
Yeah, it's dropped off a lot, but because I think like which is funny, because this is when people should be buying, when it's in the 70% dip and staking, but we're seeing total T-shares go down.
Yeah.
In a dip versus go up, right? So you would think a lot of people would be buying this dip and staking it long because they're getting discounts, they're getting their copies and all that. But it's actually the inverse is happening. People are having less faith and don't want to stake as much or stake as long during the dip.
I mean, maybe it's also being offset by the 1 year big payday stakes that you mentioned. So all of those shares are being burned. Maybe it's not.
It could be. Yeah, it could be that too. Because because they did have such a greater share. Price.
And a lot of those people staked literally days before share ratcheted up like 50-60% on the day. So this is an interesting period of time.
Have you thought about doing a metric hex per T share? So like looking at your stake and how much hex it required to get that T share?
Yeah. No, I have that data. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because I was looking at some like stakes, like I was like, if you take 1 million hex divided by the T shares you got, that's your hex per T share.
Yeah.
And then if you compare it, current stakes versus big payday stakes, I was seeing the big payday stakes like were about 40 to 45% cheaper than a current stake. So they got 40 to 45% more T shares than you do now. So yeah, if a lot of those stakes are ending, then maybe that's why we're seeing a decline in T shares total, because if they do go to restake that for another year, they're going to get 50% less.
Yeah,
that could be contributing to some of it. Yeah, perhaps. But yeah, so where is that metric? Do you have it on the site?
I don't have it on the site.
Okay.
I've tried to figure out kind of a way to represent it visually, but the data that I've been looking at, something that I update on the daily is, I think it's what you're talking about. It's average system hex per T-share, like how much on average it cost them in hex terms for a T-share. and the average looks like 5,700 hex, which you might be asking yourself, like, wait, I thought it was 19,000 hex per t-shirt. How are these guys getting it for 5,700? Bonus shares, right? Like you get 3x bonus shares if you're staked 10 years more. But then you might be asking, okay, that's still like, what's the share rate right now? 19,300. Divide that by 3. It's still 6,400 hex per t-shirt it's going to cost you. So how do people get it on average 5,700? Those are just older stakes from people staking with
pre-big payday,
lower share rates, correct? So that's interesting to me. But how would you visualize that data?
So so what I just looked at one of my stakes, and I saw how many t-shirts I got and the length of that stake, right? And then I did this. I copied those same inputs, the same amount of hex, same amount of length, and then I just divided by how many t-shirts I would get now. So in the one example, I got 3508 hex per t-shirt. So that was big payday. So it's very cheap, right? 3,500, basically a little over 3,500 hex per t-shirt. But then if I were to take that same amount of hex and do the same amount of length, it would be 6,400 hex per t-share. So that's where I got the 45% cheaper or discounted shares were big payday compared relative to today's share price. So it just shows you how much the share price has climbed even in the last year, right? It's only been a year since big payday, but the share price has climbed rapidly. So it's just like, if you're not staking, or if you're just doing short-term stakes, then you are going to be losing some of your position in the system over time. It's going to be tough to notice that, but definitely you are going to be losing out on some of your position if that's what you care about. If that's what you care about is the maximum daily interest you're trying to accrue. But everyone's different, right? Some people stake only 10 years plus. Some people can't stake that long, right? Or just keep it liquid. So it's just like everyone's different, right? It's not a one size fits all in Hex. And one of the beautiful things about it is you can design them however you want to do your staking ladder or not stake at all. It's a beautiful.
That's a great point, and I want to point that out because you see a lot of trash talking on Twitter when people sell, or even just when they're just rumors like, oh, this OG is selling. Like, you have to realize, like, some people will sell, and that's just part of the game. Like, you don't know anyone's personal situation, so like keeping your eyes on their transactions, their funds. Like, I thought crypto was to get away from that and to seek financial sovereignty, and obviously you can't have your transactions censored, but having them being eyeballed and then almost even like doxing on Twitter, it's just like, you guys, like, keep your eyes on your own paper and just like chill is my suggestion. Obviously you can do whatever you want, but I don't know about you. I'm unfollowing certain people on Twitter when they cross a certain threshold that I'm like, I don't agree with the values this person is probably sitting on to act this way. And so, like, I've definitely gone on a little Twitter purge just because, like, I can't handle that kind of
it's better for your mental health.
Yeah,
Twitter,
man.
I mean, Twitter's terrible for your mental health.
Oh,
just
the worst.
Side note. It's entertaining sometimes, but it's oof. I feel for people that are on that thing all day.
Yeah.
How their emotional health must be pretty poor.
I got that I got this from the baby lyric. Keep your eyes on your own paper. Just for someone who said well said and think it's my quote. It's not. It's a lyric. Ballier Brands. I've been spending a lot less time on Twitter. Even Hex Twitter can be so toxic. Yeah, man. It's you don't want to become what you were kind of hating on the whole time, like Bitcoin maxis. I see a lot of Hex maxis just literally becoming what they hate. So just be careful. Always stay self-aware. Audit yourself. Check yourself. Think before you speak. And I think I'll leave it at that.
It's funny that the term Hex maxis isn't even a thing. Like,
yeah,
it's just pretty funny. I mean, that's good. It's a sign that Hex is successful. That there are Hex maximalists. Right.
That is very true.
It's just pretty funny to think about. Like, now there's Hex maxis and they're like toxic and yelling at people. And
a lot of these people aren't even like I don't want to say like the founding members of the community, but like a lot of these are people who literally just came into and are like budding. I mean, there are some who have been around a while. I mean, it's just a matter of like respect at the end of the day. Like respect what people do with their own money. Like leave it alone. Yeah, don't just insult people like a child either. Like if you're gonna have a case, if you're gonna have if you want to have an actual like mature debate, bring up talking points. Like I personally love debates and like talking points and not going for the personal. There's a term for it when you just like go for personal attacks in a debate. I forget the term for it, but I like logical debates. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I love the Richard when he just slays people with like the
Yeah,
logic, and they
there you
can't
go.
like twist out of it, and then they have to
Uh-huh.
just like change the subject.
Yeah,
I do like those arguments.
there you go.
But yeah, I mean, just as something came to mind when you said like talk about Twitter and even like the hex trading chats sometimes are just so toxic. It's like I think during these dips, just people's amygdalas just go off, and they're just ripe with fear. And then when you're ripe with fear, you can't make good. You know, the prefrontal cortex gets dislodged, and it doesn't work properly, right? You can't do. Well, it's just a known fact in just neuroscience. Like once your amygdala is activated, your fear responses, it's like your mammalian brain system. It's like one of the earliest systems to notice bad for good. And then they basically are acting like a monkey. They're acting like a animal in the wild, right? Their prefrontal cortex, which is in charge of a lot of the reasoning, analytical planning, future pacing, future investment. That's where a lot of that goes on in the brain in the front.
Mm-hmm.
The most, the newest developed part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, that just goes out the window, and they just can't think. And I think they just make terrible decisions. And I think they just spiral out of control on Twitter or on some of these social media sites when, and then the financial aspect, of course, too. And their self-worth is tied up to their net worth. And then when their net worth goes down, i.e. their crypto holdings, they feel bad, they feel worse, they feel less than. So, that's just what I see a lot in investing in general. It's just it's a lot of just investing is all psychology. It's all investor psychology and sentiment.
For sure. And I mean, Hex was designed literally to help protect you against this with staking mechanism. So, I mean, yeah, I would just I would watch Matty Allen's streams, honestly. Do you watch his streams? Because he touches on that a lot. Like whenever I start delving into a conversation with someone on stream here about like that market psychology, I always want to refer to his streams because he goes in depth. He has the knowledge on it and has guided a lot of Hex holders over months of content, just kind of touching on these important subjects of mental health, just kind of like this whole self-worth tied to your net worth, these types of concepts, how to break those. And yeah, I will defer to the experts when I find that necessary and shout him out.
Yeah, I do watch his show and Quant Gang a little bit.
Nice.
For some of the TA and yours for the TA. But who do you like in the community for TA other than yourself, of course? Who do you like for TA, or charts do you respect? For the
putting me
not to put you on the spot.
Spotlight here. No, you totally did.
Like in general, okay. Just who's TA do you like?
Make me pick favorites here. Probably Jenkins, man. And not just saying that because he's like come on stream with me and everything, but like I even pointed it out when we did a stream together, like his 11-cent call when we were post sacrifice. Once that started, like his call at 11 cents, we wicked down like right to it, and just like he called for this correction down to 20 cents months ago. Happened. Like guys have been spot on with the technicals. Plus, I respect that he can go in depth into like the short term stuff, which I get completely lost on. I'm more of a macro guy, if you've noticed. Like I rarely go into hourly charts or 4-hour charts. And if you see all the charts on LookIntoHex.com, they're like zoomed out to cover years. So yeah, I respect that guy's charts a lot, and his consistency, just level-headedness too. So I definitely want to shout out Jenkins. Everyone in the chat's like Jenkins.
Okay, yep. So they agree with you.
Wave 3 too. Wasabi.
Oh yeah,
Wasabi. He's fire. No, I love that guy too.
I do like his stuff too. He does a lot of like the fractal ETH fractal stuff with HEX, which I tend to follow as well. That was one of the things, like when HEX launched, I was like, how is it gonna, exactly what your chart says. I was like doing that chart manually myself, like just trying to compare, like, visually,
Nice.
and seeing some trends, because there are a lot of similarities actually with some of the
lot.
how it the price and like how it dumped initially, but then pumped, and then like has big retraces. It's just that's just how it is, right? It's like
crypto.
ETH went from, it was like at $10, and then it went to like $300 in no time, and then it crashed down to like 150 or 160 in like a day or two, and then it went from 150 to 1500, right? So this is like crypto. It's so tough to know exactly what's going to happen price wise, but just like for the most part, I'm just trying to buy dips and stake. Simple.
For sure, man. Good stuff. Did you want to touch a little bit on, I know we talked about this in the green room about IRAs and how that could be like a good vehicle for people to get into that if you can.
I can just mention what it is, and then feel free to ask questions, or people can ask. But essentially, you can invest in crypto in general, or HEX specifically. And the Discord Syndicate guys did a stream with Rocket Dollar and ErisX, Toby and Kinetics, maybe RG too. But essentially, you can invest in crypto inside a 401k or an IRA, and if you choose the Roth option, it's tax-free for most people in the U.S. And then you can, inside that IRA or 401k, you can buy HEX, you can stake it 15 years if you choose. Or for people like Gerardo and I, we can do it for 15 years twice, 5 twice, and have all the gains be tax-free. And if you're older, let's say you're 50 years old, you can access those funds around 59 and a half, so that you can do a 10-year stake. And a 10-year stake in HEX versus holding like a Vanguard ETF, to me, it's tough to justify the Vanguard ETF relatively speaking, when HEX is this early and you're getting interest, high interest inside your investment vehicle. Like, to me, people inside their retirement accounts are dreaming of something that would pay them high yield. 30% seems outrageous, but like even 10%, like people could get 10% safely on their money. I think a lot of people would choose that. And then HEX, if you stake it for the average or longer, you're getting 35. I mean, 10 years or plus now, you're getting 35%. And then again, that doesn't even include the copies or Pulse HEX
or USD gains
or liquidity mining on Pulse.
Yeah.
Or any of the other things that you can do inside a self-directed investment vehicle. It just allows you to invest more. It's the same thing as an IRA or 401k. It just allows you to invest in more speculative things like crypto, real estate, collectibles, art, all those other things. Yeah, so it's a lot of people don't know about them.
No, I did not know about that.
Yeah, it's not really it's not marketed to that much. It's not going to be on any advertisements on TV. They're going to just be advertising like general, retirement accounts, wealth management stuff, brokerage stuff. But for the most part, and a few Hexicans have done it. I don't want to name them specifically, but they're pretty happy with their plan, and you can customize it however you like. But for the most part, it's been a great tool. If you're in the US, if it makes sense. Obviously, it's not for everyone, but if it makes sense, I think it's worth taking a look at least.
Okay. So that's one option. Just want to point out, I personally am not a tax advisor, finance advisor. So defer to your experts and professionals for that sort of counsel. I'm not sure about your qualifications, but
I am a financial advisor, but
you are very nice.
Financial advice.
I love it.
And speak to your tax advisors, your financial professionals always.
Full disclaimer. So that's one option, is within you said a Roth IRA or a 401k.
Roth IRA. You could do a self-directed Roth, or you could do a self-directed 401k, solo K, if you have self-employment income. So it's like, if you're an employee, you can do the IRA. If you're self-employed or you're an employer, you can do the 401k most of the time. But so it's pretty cool. It's like it's a brand new world. It's like, imagine telling your parents you're investing in digital asset inside your retirement account, but it doesn't really exist. It's just on the internet. It's like if you told like anyone that's a boomer or older, it's like they were like, what the hell is going on? That's kind of the world we live in now, right? And if you're more conservative, you can just invest in Ethereum, or you can hold USDC. You can trade in and out. Like inside a retirement vehicle, there's no tax implications. You're just
interesting,
right.
And it's not able to be. Is it not able to be realized until like a certain date?
Yeah. So retirement vehicles.
Yeah.
So retirement vehicles are intended for the long term.
Right.
Once you turn 59 and a half, you can start accessing funds. There are some other stipulations that may come up that you can access it earlier, but for the most part, 59 and a half. So it's like HEX. It's going to benefit the long-term thinkers. It's going to benefit the people that have that long-term perspective, and it can defer their gratification for something as important as retirement. Right.
And they might not have to give up their 1000x gains and turn that into 600x gains because of taxes, but actually be able to keep all those x's too.
Exactly. Yes. And then therefore they also will have to sell less HEX.
Right.
Therefore the price can be higher for HEX because there's no taxes. So it's also kind of a pumpamental in a way. In a third order effect. It's kind of like a pumpamental there.
No, I love it. But, I didn't know about that.
Yeah. And you can invest in other things. You can do Pulse, you could do PHEX, you could do liquidity mining inside it. You can buy real estate inside your self-directed stuff.
So when you say inside it, you just mean like I'm curious because it's kind of like an abstraction when you say inside this vehicle. Like how do you set it up to become that umbrella, to become that vehicle? Like where would you suggest people, like maybe not suggest, but where would you say they start looking for? Just like Google these terms or?
Yeah, I mean, if people are interested or want to know more, they can just DM me.
Okay.
At Golden Yacht.
Okay.
On Telegram, and I can give them like who I use and give them some resources to just learn about like how do you put cryptocurrency inside IRAs or 401ks, because there's specific methods that you have to follow. You can't just say, hey, I'm doing this on my own, and then this is all legit. Like you have to create LLCs, you have to create bank accounts in the LLC or the entity's name. Right. You have to do all these. You have to fund it in a specific way where it's not mingled with other funds. Right? You can't mix retirement funds with your bank account or your checking account. Right? You can't do that. Do that, then those are violations, and then that could cause issues down the road with your legitimacy and the compliance of your plan. So you have to follow the rules to a T, and that's why it's not just like. That's why I used a company to do that, and they do with all the management, and I pay them a monthly fee. But there's no asset fee, which I liked, because most places will charge like a 1% or whatever fee on your assets every year. This strategy, you pay with fiat outside of it, and your HEX or whatever you own inside the 401k or the IRA is not going to be feed inside of it. So you can just continue to have those assets grow and not have any fees taken out while you're
growing.
I see what you're saying. HEX, there's no fees, right? How are you going to pay fees on something that's staked for 10 years?
Right.
You can't. So
it literally doesn't exist. It's burned.
It's a pretty cool tool, right? And then between now and Pulsechain, you might have a few months. You're going to get a copy of Pulse HEX inside your 401k. How cool is that, right? You get 2 money printers inside one IRA asset. It's pretty. Cool. It's insane, right? And if you invest in Pulse too, you can stake your Pulse inside it. So you could have ideally 3 forms of income inside one asset, and you have total control of it. All right, and
don't forget Pulse Swap as well as a potential yield farming 4th too. Money printer. So.
Or PRC20s, you could including my PRC20s inside it. You can hold just cash. You don't have to invest. You can hold cash. You could buy a house inside the forum.
Interesting.
So it's a cool way to like diversify too. If you just because most people just invest in like the stock market, right? And then they do a few speculative things. That their biggest asset is usually their home, their primary residence. Some people flip homes, but most people, the majority of their net worth isn't tied up in their primary residence. So this is a way also to, if you want to invest in real estate, you could do it on a tax-free basis inside that too. So it's not just crypto.
Okay.
So it gives you options. Gives you options down the road. Like once you realize all these HEX gains, you could diversify into more tangible things if you're so inclined, right? It's not, HEX is not the only thing in town, but it just happens to be a very good asset, I think.
Very compelling, right?
Yeah.
Now I know a lot of or at least some people, wouldn't necessarily want to have their hex tied up for whatever until they're 59 years old. So I've heard, not completely sure. Maybe you can elaborate on a second option. If you could touch on, I believe they're called charitable remainder investment trusts.
Yeah.
Right. So,
CRTs. Yeah.
right. These, how do these work? And are these more so of a, like, you won't have to lock up your hex till you're 59? Are they a better option for people who care about
So
that and so on?
yeah, so it's like, it's a really good question. It's very detailed and nuanced. So this is more at an advanced tactic.
Okay.
And I know the Discourse Syndicate guys are trying to work on a product like this.
Mm-hmm.
So this is my understanding, and obviously, again, talk to your legal and tax professionals, because this is very nuanced and very in-depth, and requires a lot of work to just do it correctly. Because you need trust, you need lawyers, you need the financing, you need usually financial advisors or managers to invest the assets. So essentially, CRTs are charitable remainder trusts, which most people use highly appreciated assets to put into these trusts. So HEX could be it. It could be a stock. It could be anything. So you take this asset that, let's say you put in $1,000 and now it's $1 million. You transfer that $1 million asset to the trust. That trust now owns it. So you owe zero capital gains tax on it. Does that make sense so far?
Right.
So it's just a transfer of ownership from you owning that $1 million of assets to the trust. The trust now owns it, and the trustee will then sell those assets usually. And then they have to follow a strict investment guideline on how to invest those assets. Usually it's called prudent investment management, which means essentially you just have to invest it very conservatively from like a traditional investing standpoint, like modern portfolio theory. You might put in like a 60-40 portfolio, 60% bonds, 60% stocks, 40% bonds, or something similar to that, right? So they don't let you go crazy with it, but the goal is to just earn like a 5 or 6% yield over time. And then the income side of the trust is every year you dictate the terms of the income, but every year you're going to get, let's say most people choose 5%. So if it's $1 million, right, you then would yield $50,000 a year of income from that asset, from that trust. And then that portfolio of the 60-40 stocks to bond portfolio would pay out that distribution every single year or every single month, however you want the frequency to be. And then you just essentially created a lifetime income stream for yourself. So are you following it? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So just let me step back a little. When you transfer the appreciated asset into the trust, there's no transfer tax, correct?
There's no capital gains tax. No, there's no
tax. Okay.
Because you're giving up the asset. You're giving up control. You're saying like, this is out of my estate. The trust owns it.
It's almost a donation, or
similar? Okay. Yeah. So that's the last part. So the remainder trust. Remainder means the remaining balance in the trust will go to the charity of your choice, but you have to dictate that ahead of time. And once you do it, it's irrevocable. So literally you can't get out of it. Once you do this, you can't get out of it.
Okay.
That's why you have to know for sure you want to do this and it's right for you. Yeah. Because if you were to die early, let's say you did the same thing, $1,000 now turned into $1 million. If you do the trust and you put the asset in there and you die the next day, the charity gets the $1 million, not your family, not your kids, not your spouse. It goes to the charity. So that's a risk, is if you pass away and you give up control of the asset, yeah, you got the income for how many years you wanted it or you decided to get it. But the remainder, when you pass away, goes to the charity. So that's why not only do you not pay capital gains tax on this transfer, but you actually get a tax deduction. Because the IRS will do a calculation of, okay, you donated this $1 million asset, you're at this age, you're taking this much of an income from it, we're going to give you $100K tax break.
Nice.
Let's say, for example. I don't know what it exactly would be. It's different for everyone. But that's how it works. So you have no capital gains tax. You actually get a tax break on it. But in exchange for that, you give up control of the asset. It's not in your control anymore. But the trust just has to follow the dictates of the trust, which says it paid Gerardo 5% a year from the assets, and that's lifetime income for him. But one of the things I don't like about this strategy, specifically with crypto, is when, as far as I know, when you transfer crypto to a trust, they sell it all. So again, $1 million of HEX sold on the market. You're essentially selling a highly appreciated asset, HEX, for a very conservative 60-40 portfolio.
I see.
So are you comfortable with that trade-off?
Got it.
And then secondly, yes, you're avoiding taxes on the capital gains and you're getting a tax break. However, income tax from trusts is taxed at high percentages. I think it's roughly 34% on the high side or 35%. So if you might be getting $50K a year in income, but you're getting taxed at 30, 35, 4%, you might be only yielding after taxes, net taxes, you might be getting, let's say, 35K a year of after-tax income. So instead of getting 4K or a little over 4K a month, you might be getting 3K a month. So that's something to factor in too, is the trusts have their own tax brackets. And this is essentially trust income that you're receiving from a trust. So there's, again, like there's a lot, as you can tell, there's a lot of variables and things that go into this. It's not just like I'm going to do it, CRT done, and then I get income for life. Like you have to really think this through. A lot of people combine CRTs with life insurance because if you do pass away, you're giving up the asset, you buy a cheap to life insurance policy, and then that covers that asset for a certain amount of time. Does that make sense?
So I kind of missed that last part. Can you repeat that?
So again, using the same example, if we have $1,000 turned into $1 million, and then we give that to the trust, we transfer to the trust. Now the trust owns it. Most people will get a life insurance policy on themselves of $1 million, say, but of the cheap term policy, and then they will have that for, let's say, 10 years. So they say, okay, if I pass away anything between now and 10 years, my beneficiaries will still get $1 million, and the charity will get the remainder. But my heirs, my beneficiaries are protected.
Nice.
Because I don't want them to lose out on the $1 million if I were to die tomorrow after I do the trust. So it's just like it's financial planning stuff that most people aren't going to really think about off the top of their heads. But these are the things you have to think about when you're if you're deciding whether or not a CRT is right for you, because it's not right for everyone.
Most definitely not. No,
and it's not like it's not a catch-all, and it doesn't make sense in every situation.
No, most definitely not. I just wanted because you seem to be aware of multiple options people can have. So just presenting them with the options and having them know what their options are so they can go do their own research, I think is a powerful thing. So, I mean, so far we've presented two, right? The 401k option, I guess three, you could say the RA option, but those are both kind of similar vehicles. And then this CRT type option. I mean, there are probably more, but
there's more. There's
complicated.
There's a lot more. It gets very, very complicated. There's ways to do trust to pass it to your beneficiaries without like gift tax. There's ways to transfer it to like grandchildren, without gift tax. Like there's so many things that rich people do to maintain their wealth and to preserve wealth through trusts and through very complicated estate planning things. There are these things. These things do exist, but you definitely have to be very diligent in how you design and think about them. So
of course, people are bringing up in the chat liquid loans solves all this. They're saying, and I read half their white paper and then I kind of stopped. It's very interesting.
We can talk about that. Sure. I've looked at it briefly. What are your thoughts on it?
It's interesting. I'm not completely familiar with how the protocol works. Again, I've only read half the white paper. I think Jesse, the representative for the project, said explicitly that there's a project they basically kind of copied, forked. I was under the impression it was very similar to an Aave, but I might be wrong because I've never used Aave or really looked too deep into it other than this like the surface level stuff. But I know it was a very successful project on the Ethereum chain, so I would expect, liquid loans to have success as well. But it's basically just collateralized lending, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, I think from what I heard was just it's a way to lock up your pulse with them or with the protocol. And then you get some, capital. You get some stables, and then relative to how much you put in, you get a percentage of the stables. And then it's not going to be, you're not selling the asset, so it's not taxable. However, there are risks with it because you can get liquidated.
Yeah.
And with HEX, you can't get liquidated.
Correct.
Like the same thing with Pulse, you can't really get liquidated if you delegate your stake to a validator. Like you're not going to get liquidated that way. But in these ways, I'm sure there are ways that you can. So they have to make sure that there's things in place to make sure that there's some sort of investor protections. Otherwise, we're going to have to start calling it liquidated loans. So I don't know like anything about the founders or the code, so I can't really comment on that. But I just know I would say be careful because you want to deal with people that have experience working on protocols in that space, right? Like you don't want a dentist working on you for the first time, claiming that they're the best dentist. Same thing with this. Like if these people have not created crypto coin projects or anything in the crypto space before, I would be cautious. Not saying it's a scam or anything, but I would just be cautious with how much capital I put in, how much I'm willing to risk, how much how much of a loan do I really need it? What is this? What is this capital actually going to be used for? Right. Is a good question to ask before you take a loan, right? And then know how much does if the price moves, how much, how quickly could I get how fast could I get liquidated? Because with Pulse, I'm assuming the liquidity is going to be relatively low relative to the market cap. So if you have something similar to HEX, as the last month has shown, you can get huge volatility, and 70% drops are going to liquidate a lot of people. In any asset. So just be careful. But I'm definitely going to look at what more, I guess, what their protocol looks like closer to when it's launching. It's tough to say. But I think it is closer to like an Aave or Compound. I think they do something similar.
No, for sure. Good points.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, definitely.
And then also, like, I'm curious how they make money too. I'm sure they're gonna have a token.
They will
too. So they'll have their own token. They'll make money. Yeah, they'll make their money there somehow. And then, what's the revenue source, and is this sustainable? And how long do you want to lock up your money in a brand new protocol too? Right? Is it audited? Is it's a brand new thing on a brand new chain? Do you trust that? I don't know. It's up for you to it's up for people to decide their risk tolerance.
Of course.
Yeah.
If they're successful, then in retrospect, I mean it's almost an obvious play. Like I've touched on this a few times in the past, how all of the protocols on Ethereum that have been successful that are either procrastinating to come over to Pulsechain or just against it, there's a lot of opportunity there. So collateralized lending is just one opportunity of something that already exists, has been kind of proven, is successful on Ethereum. Like you said, make sure that the team kind of knows what they're getting into in terms of launching a crypto in general. Hopefully they're aware of all the kind of pitfalls, failure modes, and all that. But I think there's a lot of opportunity for all these successful protocols to come over.
And one thing that I'm looking at too, just from a macro perspective, is like the regulations around these types of loan protocols, like Celsius. I know like Coinbase's lending division, they shut down in the US. Like they've invested a lot of capital into that, and then they had to shut it down out of nowhere, which makes me believe that this was some sort of regulatory SEC, CFTC thing. And so I would just be careful with that too, not the FUD, but there are regulatory risks, and this is a brand new environment, and the SEC and these bodies are actually looking at this stuff like seriously now. So they like, these are risks, right? Like the regulatory risk is a thing in crypto.
True.
So I'd be curious to see what they have to say about that too.
For sure.
That's my thoughts on it so far.
Yeah, I think when you start getting into things like guaranteeing yield in USD terms, that's when things start getting very, very iffy and likely to be put under regulatory scrutiny. Just because then at that point you're competing with like treasury rates of like risk-free yield, and obviously that's, for a government, that seems unacceptable. So I understand. I'm not saying I agree, but I understand. And if you're getting into all these protocols, then be careful, because some of these don't have investor protection. Some of these don't actually comply with laws, and you only find out like after the hammer's already been cracked down. So just be cautious. people in the chat saying they'd love to see a talk between you and Jesse. It's pretty interesting.
Okay.
Like a few people in the chat, so just wanted to point that out. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Maybe we can set it up or do a voice chat.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
But can we get your Twitter? I think it's Golden Yacht, right? At Golden Yacht.
That's my. I'm not on Twitter. I just have burner. I just have burners that I used to follow, but I don't.
Nice.
I don't actually have Twitter. It's a long story.
No worries.
But yeah, Telegram is the best way to reach me.
Cool.
There was one thing about Pulse I wanted to chat about real quick.
Let's do it
before we wrap up in a little bit. Was Scotty, my friend Scotty does know, and you said you know who he is. He mentioned like with a lot of these coins that are not going to be communities aren't going to move over to Pulse. There has to be some sort of incentive for them to move over. Of course, the liquidity mining is the main thing. But even if they were to move over, like how would they move over is a question, right? Like, because they have a front end on Ethereum, but they're not going to have a front end on Pulse automatically, right? It's not just going to be like flip a switch and they now have a front end to use like Aave or pAave or pComp or pTorn. So who will be building the front ends, or will Richard and his team be building front ends, like a global front end for some of these things? Like, I'm curious about that. Do you have any ideas of how that's going to work? Like, how are some of these protocols even going to be used on Pulse? Pulse. How are we going to get adoption? There's no front end. There's a code there and their coins are there, but there's no way to use it.
Therein lies the opportunity, right? Like for people to build these front ends, and if these, like, it might not be the pAave that is successful. It might be the loan, right? Liquid loans token. And I mean, it comes down to teams. Like, I'm pretty sure, well, things are a little different now with the whole 1-inch US BS, but I'm pretty sure they launched on BSC, and they might have launched on Matic. I'm actually not familiar, but they have well, the incentive would be fees, right? Like if they have, if you have 1-inch on Pulse, then wouldn't fees be the incentive for the DEX, as is usual with DEXs and exchanges?
With DEXs, yeah, like the Tornado Cash DEXs, yeah, the fees obviously would be the incentive. But like we were talking, and I was like, I think you just got to hit people with greed before reason, because I feel like a lot of people are still going to say that Pulse is a scam, Richard's a scammer, he's a Ponzi, it's a Ponzi, and they're not going to necessarily adopt, or we might not get the adoption that we anticipate. Or some of the people in the Pulsechain chats have been saying how like we're going to get all this adoption. Like it's a possibility that it may not happen at all.
True.
But I feel like greed will win out at the end of the day, right? Because if there's money to be had, if there's airdrops that have value somehow, if somehow the design can be that they have value initially, if there's like, that's how we're going to get adoption, I believe. It's just greed, playing off people's greed as opposed to their reason. Because yes, people might hate Richard, people might hate Hexicans, people might hate Pulse, but if there's free money to be had, I'm pretty sure, based on what we've seen from all the other crypto airdrops and everything, people are going to be fiending for airdrops, coins, something they can just swap for their precious ETH or their precious Bitcoin, right? So I'm just curious to see, just open-ended question, I guess. I'm just curious to see what are the tricks of the trade that Richard's going to implement to try to get adoption, actually have people use it. I'm curious. I really want to use the Tornado Cash on Pulse. I want to see how it works, right? Like being able to anonymize, not for $1,000 per 100 ETH, but for a cent, right? Like, how will that change the game? That's what it's going to be fun to see play out. Yeah,
and it'll really highlight the decentralized nature of things if you see just like random community members or just people start building, because that's really what like someone pointed out, that's what a free market is. That's what crypto is kind of designed for, is to give the community control and distribute the nature of these protocols. But yeah, I mean, I want to thank you for coming on. I know you have to go here shortly. Appreciate your time. Really good chats.
Yeah,
I learned a ton, and I'm sure people in the chat learn a ton about all these vehicles, like tax stuff that I'm not a professional on, but you are. So everyone go follow John on, or not follow, but rather DM you on Telegram
DM me
if they
or
want to know more.
if they want to talk. A lot of these people already know me or in the
Mhm.
Telegram chats. I'm in the
Mhm.
all the Telegram Hex chats, Pulse too. I'm not in there too much. And I've been streaming them a few times too. And
Nice.
I
Yeah.
also have a couple older videos like the Hex conference I spoke at and done some streams with RG and Cabana. So yeah, I'm always open to chatting again too in the future if you want to do it again. Just wanted to kind of do a quarterly check-in.
Yeah, man.
Let everyone know everything's gonna be fine, and
Yeah.
hopefully we'll get a pump soon. But yeah, gonna
I hope
take
so, man.
off.
Yeah.
Gonna take off real shortly. So yeah, thanks for the time, and
Mhm.
hopefully everyone got some value out of this. Hopefully it wasn't a waste of time for
Yeah.
them. And yeah, just if you need anything or you know how to reach me, DM me.
Mhm.
Or if you have any questions about the stuff we talked about, feel free to DM me.
For sure.
But yeah, it was great talking, man.
No, yeah, definitely. Thanks for coming on, educating everyone.
For sure.
Excited
All right,
to see what Pulse brings and Hex brings. But yeah, thanks for chatting.
all right, take care.
All right, peace.
See you.
Thanks, Maddie, for the shout out to these guys. You two rock. Hit the like. Appreciate it, man. Thanks, guys. Good vibes. Yes, sir. Well, that was a great chat. It was my first time actually chatting with John, face to face or video to video, camera to camera. So that was really cool. I learned a ton. Thank you guys for tuning in. This has been real. An hour 36 minutes. Not our longest stream to date, but good stuff. Thank you, Hodl Dog in the chat. We got these legends in the chat, Maddie, Hodl Dog. Thank you guys for watching. I'm actually lurking in a lot of these Hex streams. I don't always comment, but I'm listening. Right? I listen to you guys too. But yeah, excited to see what the future brings. So happy, literally bought the bot. Nice. Feels so good. I went in heavy last night. Sweet. I mean, yeah, we had a nice wick to the downside at 14.4 cents. Nice wick to the upside, 21. This is a bullish engulfing candle. Last one we saw was here, I believe. And then before that, it was like over here. Interesting. Very interesting. John is great, not often on his stream. Yeah, we planned this like a week or two ago, so it was good to have him on, man. Hey, appreciate the super chat. Cause D, many blessings. Thank you. Hope you guys are enjoying your day. How's your day going? I might stick around for a little bit. I might stick around. What do you guys think? Are we gonna hold red on the regression rainbow? What do you guys think? Let's get a yes or a no in the chat. Currently red is like 13.8 cents. Love what you do, Gerardo. Thank you, Blissful Satire. Are you going to the anniversary party? I will not be at the London anniversary party, unfortunately. I would hope to be at Las Vegas next year. So we covered the whole nomics thing. People are asking thoughts on nomics. We covered that early in the stream, so we're just rewind and rewatch this. What are my thoughts on Pulse releasing on the 18th? I don't know. Could be. Also, maybe not. Maybe not. Yes. People think we're going to hold red. Nice. Take a look at the nomics essay. Yeah, I had it open over here just in case we covered it. If you have some time, read up on it. It's just Clay's explanation of why market cap is silly and why Hex has been adjusted on nomics.com. Love your data, man. Hold or not, I don't care. It's TA, it's hard. Yeah, and we've touched a ton. We've touched on this a bunch of times. What would happen if regression rainbow actually didn't hold? And it's pretty simple, right? We would just readjust. If red breaks and we see decisive market structure, sustained market structure beneath red, at that point, we wait for our local minima, right? We wait for a bottom. And then once we're pretty certain that that bottom is in, we refit the data to not be aligned anymore and rather be a logarithmic curve, but it's too soon. Too soon to tell. Still holding red. Technically bounced almost right off of it. So we'll have to wait and see. My day's going super well because Huddle Dog told me about this ENS airdrop. Thanks, bro. Nice. Yeah, for those of you guys who aren't aware, the ENS airdrop is simply if you have a .eth domain, like you see a lot of these guys on Twitter, the ETH boys, or just if you have a .eth domain, if you bought one, you have ENS tokens to claim potentially. So that's kind of nice. Free money. Who doesn't like it? We will hold red, sure as hell hope so. Yeah, it'd be nice. It'd be nice to hold it. See you in Vegas? Potentially. Potentially. Hello from Syria. Nice. Welcome in. Welcome in. We're pretty much wrapping up this stream. Been on for about an hour 40. What day is it today? Tuesday, right? So tune into Quant Ganglander today. That's always fun to watch on Tuesdays. I'll be in the chat lurking. But yeah, guys. I think we covered everything. Just looking at all my dozen tabs open here real quick. I mean, I guess we can touch on this. The HEX ETH pair. We've only dipped 80% twice on the HEX ETH pair. 82% back here, 87% back here. Currently sitting at an 80.7% dip. So if you were waiting for an 80% dip on the ETH pair, it already happened. So just wanted to point that out. We bounced off of 24 on the RSI, similar to back here. Interesting. And not only that, this horizontal level, which was clear resistance 1, 2 times, and support here is looking like potential support, potentially, but only time will tell. Yeah, appreciate you guys watching. Subscribe if you haven't already. We're almost at 10,000 subscribers. That feels nuts to say. But yeah, help run us through 10K, get the eyes on Hex Pulse and all of these amazing things that I'm excited for. I don't know about you, but yeah, I missed you guys. Hopefully, I'm going to try to make more streams, right? I'm trying to make more streams because I'm in full health, have the time, and might as well, right? This is Hex USDC V1, 2 years of data. But yeah, covered pretty much everything. Yep. So I'm going to end the stream here shortly. But again, appreciate you guys watching. Subscribe, like if you haven't already. LookIntoHex.com for all of these charts that we touched on. All on LookIntoHex.com. Updated every single day. And what else? What else? I have a feeling I'm forgetting some things. Oh, LookIntoHex app, right? Be on the lookout. Things are in motion. Mobile optimization has been a top priority for the longest time. And I realized, like, yeah, it was about time. So the app is being built as we speak right now, aiming for a December launch for the LookIntoHex app on both iOS and Android. So very excited for that. I'm checking in every day to see if there's updates on that, but I'll let you guys know ASAP. Yeah, go ahead and follow on Twitter, link in the description, LookIntoHex. Been dropping VIP videos every single week, LookIntoHex.com/VIP. Check that out down there. We also recently got a private Telegram chat, which is super nice. It's nice and quiet, and there are only like 23 members as opposed to the 1,200 in the normal LookIntoHex Telegram chat. So check that out. I locked the merch shop, by the way. So if you go to it, it's locked with a password. If you're clever, you can figure out the password and still access the merch. But I locked it because we're gonna do. Obviously, we have the rebrand with the logo on LookIntoHex. So there's stuff to be done there. Hopefully, December I can open that back up. But yeah, thanks for watching, y'all. Amazing session. Bought more Hex. I'm currently staked up to 90%. Timeline looking great. Thank you guys for watching. Cheers, man. Nice stream. And I'll catch you guys in a future video. Peace.